Hello, my name is Nia Marie, and I am the host and the creator of the podcast, The Inky Comet. I think the label that best captures my experience has to be misunderstood Black woman. And I think that there are a lot of misunderstood Black women, misunderstood Black people, misunderstood people of color in general. I think we're misunderstood. And I can tell you about my experience. So I think my misunderstanding is based on this notion of what does it mean to be Black and how can Black people express themselves and what are the ways in which your Blackness is validated by your expressions of self. So I grew up in Denver, Colorado, a predominantly white space, a space that practically begs anyone who is different, doesn't beg them, a space that tells anyone who is different to assimilate or to get out. And I mean that in a way of assimilate to what are the variations of white culture in which you can fit in? What are the variations of whiteness and safety and what we can label you as that we can deal with? If you are out of that spectrum, you might want to leave. So after high school, I left. But prior to, I was called so many different things from people of color, from Black folks. I was the Oreo. I was the whitewashed girl. I was the white girl in a Black girl's body simply because of the way that I talked. And I was in AP and X classes. And with that understanding that the way that I talked, that my education gave me access to a better education, quite frankly, than other Black students in the same school, I used to speak up. And I used to talk about it. And I used to talk about how it wasn't fair because, one, I was sick of being the only Black girl in all of my classes. And two, there was no reason that they were not being given the same opportunities or being pushed the way that I was being pushed or the way that these white kids were getting pushed. So as a result, I definitely was called and seen as the crazy Black girl or the angry Black girl and the reverse racist Black girl. And first, before I even go any further, reverse racism is not a real thing. It does not capture the pain or the agony that folks who are the actual victims of racism feel. And it discredits and just doesn't validate that feeling. So if I feel some type of way, it's coming from a real place because we live in an oppressive system. But anyways, so I was that person to white folks. And as I've gotten older, and even after I left Denver, I realized that, like, this wasn't just a Denver problem. This was a problem in fundamentally, what do we think Blackness means? Fundamentally, as a Black person, what are the valid ways in which that I can express myself that will be not only be recognized by my community, but by people outside of my community? And this label, this inability, I guess, to correctly label, this inability to correctly understand me has driven me to create my podcast now. My podcast is all about expanding the narrative of Blackness. It's all about showing folks that, yo, we have more experiences than being the Carlton on, what is that show? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We have more experiences than being like the ghetto Black girl that you see in the music videos, that you see in movies. Like, there are so many different ways that we are Black, and we cannot be limited, and we should not be limited because that limits our power. And so that's what the lack of actual accurate labeling has done for me. It's like, if y'all gonna talk stuff, at least be correct when you do it. So I created my podcast, The Inky Comet, to do just that. To show people that, look, the way that I'm Black is not the only right way or the correct way. There, quite frankly, is no right way. And that's all that I want to show on it. And I just ask today that you join us and others in this movement and upload your own personal video to droplabels.org.